My name's Eli Navarro. I'm 41, a safety inspector for a logistics company in Nevada. Well, was. I used to believe loyalty meant security. I believed it right up until the day my boss tried to make an example out of me for doing the right thing. Before all this, my life was small, predictable. Wake up at 5:30, pack my lunch, kiss my wife, drive 40 minutes to the yard. My job was simple: make sure no one died moving freight that wasn't worth a single human breath. Turns out, management valued schedules more than breathing. 2 months ago, a junior driver named Caleb reported a loose coupling on one of our trailers. I checked it myself, steel worn down to threadbare. The supervisor, Miller, said, "Log it, move it." I said, "If that latch gives, the back door turns into a guillotine." He laughed. "Then don't stand under it." I red-tagged the trailer anyway, shut down the bay, and called OSHA like protocol said. Miller's face went redder than a warning light. "You just cost us a shipment," I said. "I might have saved a driver." 3 days later, they called me into HR. Violation of chain of command. Creating unnecessary panic. That was the phrase. They handed me a termination letter with a smile that said, "We can do this to you because you care too much." I went home and told my wife. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "You saved someone, Eli." "Yeah," I said. "But I didn't save the company's timeline." The silence that followed hurt worse than the firing. Rent due, insurance gone, and my name whispered around the yard like a curse word. Then the call came, from Caleb. "Hey man," he said, voice shaking. "That trailer you red-tagged? They moved it anyway. The latch failed at the depot. No one died, but a loader broke his arm." My stomach dropped. "You sure?" "Yeah. They said you were overreacting, so Miller signed off himself." That night I pulled out the binder, copies of every report, timestamp, photo, OSHA ticket, and the email where Miller overrode my stop. I stared at them for hours. Each page was proof that doing the right thing had a paper trail. So I called a lawyer. Her name was Danica Hayes, voice calm as clean steel. "Retaliatory termination," she said after reading my file. "They can't punish you for whistleblowing." "Then why does it feel like they already won?" I asked. "Because good men confuse decency with surrender," she said. "We'll fix that." The next 6 months were a grind of depositions and discovery. Miller lied through his teeth, said I'd fabricated the photos. HR claimed they'd never seen my safety reports. Danica stayed unshaken. She pulled server logs, email metadata, GPS from my work truck, all of it lined up. Every lie got smaller under fluorescent truth. The hearing wasn't flashy. No jury, just an administrative judge with tired eyes and a pile of binders. The company's attorney opened with, "Mr. Navarro misunderstood procedure." Danica stood, slid Exhibit 4 across the table. "My email to Miller, coupling damaged. Unsafe to dispatch." His reply, "Send it anyway." Silence spread like a crack in glass. Then she played the depot's security video. The latch snapping. The door falling. The worker screaming off camera. The judge didn't look up for a full minute. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Mr. Navarro, on behalf of the state, thank you for preventing a fatality. This company is fined for negligence and ordered to compensate full back pay plus damages." Miller's face drained of color. HR pretended to shuffle papers. I just sat there, feeling the first real breath in months. Outside the courthouse, Danica shook my hand. "You're reinstated if you want to be." I looked at the building behind her. "I think I'm done keeping other people safe so they can feel comfortable." She smiled. "Then build something safer for yourself." A week later, I registered a new business, Navarro Compliance and Safety Consulting. Small jobs at first, warehouses, trucking fleets, places that wanted to do things right because they couldn't afford to do them wrong anymore. Yesterday, Caleb stopped by the office. Still limping, still working. He dropped a coffee on my desk. "Heard you won." "Not one," I said. Just proved what should have been obvious. He nodded. Thanks for saving my life, man. Thanks for reminding me why it mattered, I said. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It's a line in a report that finally gets read. It's the sound of a latch replaced, a policy rewritten, a silence broken. They fired me for protecting someone. I built a life where that's the whole job. The settlement hit my account 2 weeks later, clean numbers, court-stamped, final. You'd think victory would feel loud, but it didn't. It felt like the hum of a refrigerator at midnight, steady, unfamiliar peace. Then came the emails. Anonymous. Subject lines like safety rat and watch your back. At first I thought it was trolls. Then I recognized the phrasing, inside jokes from the old yard. The same men who toasted me at barbecues were now telling me I'd ruined livelihoods. Miller's crew. Loyalty runs downhill until you block the drain. Danica told me. Document everything. Don't engage. I tried. But every message reopened something raw. Then one night, around 10:47 p.m., I heard gravel crunch outside my house. I looked through the blinds, pickup truck idling across the street, headlights off. Could have been anyone. Could have been a ghost with a grudge. I stood there with my coffee cooling in my hand, heart beating like it wanted to file its own complaint. The next morning, a rock was wedged in my mailbox. Sharply across it, Traders die quiet. I sent Danica a photo. She said, now it's harassment. Let's play the game on paper. Police took a statement, shrugged like I'd reported bad weather. No cameras, no fingerprints. Just the echo of men too proud to admit they'd built their careers on silence. So I did what I always do, I kept records. License plates from trucks I didn't recognize. Timestamps of calls that hung up. Patterns. Patterns tell stories if you know how to read them. One night Caleb called. You need to see this, he said. He sent a link, a private Facebook group. Truckers for Truth. My name plastered on posts calling me a mole, a sellout, a fake hero. Miller was in the comments. So was our old HR manager. I read every thread, every lie they told to make themselves the victims. Danica called it gold. Defamation, retaliation, intimidation, pick your flavor. But to me, it wasn't about lawsuits anymore. It was about rot. The kind that grows quiet until it's policy. So I made a decision. If they wanted to whisper, I'd start speaking publicly. I wrote an article titled The Cost of Silence: How Companies Punish Safety. Sent it to an industry journal. They published it in a week. By Friday, it was trending on LinkedIn. OSHA shared it. Reporters called. Monday morning, Miller's company released a statement denying everything, the PR version of, "We're guilty but can't afford honesty." By Tuesday, OSHA fined them again. By Wednesday, investors pulled contracts. Funny thing about the truth, once it's public, it doesn't care who's comfortable. That night I drove home through desert quiet, windows down, radio low. I passed the old yard. The gates were chained. A for lease sign hung crooked against the fence. I stopped the truck, stepped out, and just stood there for a minute, smelling dust and diesel and something almost like peace. They'd called me a rat. Turns out rats survive. 3 months after the article went viral, my phone wouldn't stop ringing, not from reporters this time, but from foremen, safety officers, even small business owners who'd been told the same lie I once believed. Keep quiet, keep your job. I started taking calls after dinner, notebook in hand, jotting down details like a detective without a badge. Every story was the same melody, different lyrics. Got fired for reporting a gas leak. Supervisor ignored a fall injury. They told me to fix the logbook or lose my shift. I didn't plan to become anyone's savior. I just wanted to keep the lights on. But one night, while sorting invoices, my wife said, "Maybe this is the work now, Eli. Not wiring, not inspections. Teaching people how not to get crushed by what they trust." So I leaned in. I built out Navarro Safety and Ethics Consulting. Not flashy. One logo, one desk, one mission, protect the people who still care. Then came a message that hit differently. Subject: he's still at it. Body: you don't know me, but I worked under Miller. He's running safety compliance for a new firm, Desert Line Freight. Same tricks. New name. Attached were photos. Trailers with cracked hitches. Forged inspection tags. And one note scribbled on a clipboard: Navarro snitched. Keep moving product. I sent the files to Danica. She called within the hour. You sure you want to open this door again? I said. The door never closed. They just painted over it. We filed an anonymous complaint with OSHA first, then quietly tipped an investigative journalist who'd covered my story before. Within 2 weeks, Desert Line Freight was trending, not for their contracts, but for their citations. Miller's name appeared again, buried in the third paragraph. When the article dropped, my inbox flooded, half congratulations, half threats. One email stood out. From Miller. Subject: you should have stayed down. No body text. Just that. I forwarded it to Danica. She replied with a single line. Thank you for another exhibit. When they finally called him into federal hearing for falsified reports, I sat in the back row, quiet, hands folded. He didn't look at me, but I saw the twitch in his jaw when they read my deposition into the record. Inspector Navarro's prior warnings. That's the moment you see Justice's face, not triumphant, not angry, just tired but certain. Afterward, outside the courthouse, Caleb clapped me on the shoulder. Guess you built a career out of being right, huh? I laughed once. Nah. I built it out of not backing down. We drove home in separate trucks, same highway, different piece. That night, sitting on my porch, I watched the desert stars blink over the horizon, quiet, unjudging. My wife brought me a mug of coffee. You finally done fighting? She asked. I thought about the workers who'd called me, the ones still afraid to speak. Not done, I said. Just getting louder. She smiled. Then keep building. So I did. And if you ever pass a job site with a small sign that reads Navarro Safety, we don't cut corners, that's me. Not a hero. Not a victim. Just a man who decided silence wasn't part of the job description anymore. 6 months later, business was steady, not rich, not broke. Just balanced, like a wire pulled tight but not snapping. Then one morning, I got an email that looked like spam. Subject: looking for mentorship, urgent. Body: my name's Riley. I saw your interview on the Safety Ledger. I'm 24. Just got written up for refusing to fake an inspection log. They told me, nobody likes a Navarro. Please, what do I do? The phrase hit me harder than I expected. Nobody likes a Navarro. It meant my name had become a threat in the right circles, and a lifeline in the others. I met Riley 2 days later at a diner off Highway 41. Grease smell, formica tables, the kind of place where truth sits easier than coffee. She showed up in coveralls 2 sizes too big, hands still stained with machine oil. Voice shaking, but eyes steady. They told me to sign off on equipment I knew was cracked. When I said no, the foreman laughed. Said, your career ends here, sweetheart. I asked, you got proof? She slid a phone across the table. Screenshots. Time-stamped emails. Everything in writing, like someone had been listening when I said document everything. I smiled a little. You're already doing half my job. She frowned. Then why does it feel like I'm about to lose everything? Because doing the right thing always looks like losing at first. I said. Till they run out of lies. That afternoon, I called Danica. We've got another one. I said. She sighed. You're collecting them now? Maybe. But this one's good. 2 weeks later, OSHA opened a formal investigation. The company tried the old tricks: silence, denial, blame the rookie. But Riley had learned from my mistakes. She had the receipts, the reports, and the calmness of someone who'd already decided she'd rather be fired than forget who she was. At the hearing, the company rep called her emotional. Riley didn't flinch. She said, "I'd rather be emotional than negligent." That line made it into the papers. A month after, she started working with me part-time, learning audits, reports, contracts. I watched her rebuild her confidence one form at a time. She reminded me of myself before cynicism had calloused everything. One evening, after a long day, we sat outside the shop. She said, "You ever get tired of being the guy who fights?" "Every day," I said. "But it beats being the guy who stays quiet." She smiled. "I want to start something like this one day." "Then you will," I said. "Just remember, paperwork wins wars. Keep your files clean, your conscience cleaner." She nodded, wrote it down like gospel. Weeks later, she printed business cards. Riley Thomas, Field Safety Consultant. Underneath, in small letters, trained by Navarro. I laughed when I saw it. She said, "You hate it?" "No," I said. "It means the work continues. Sometimes legacy isn't blood or medals. It's someone braver than you, carrying the torch without asking for permission." That night, driving home under desert stars, I realized something simple. I wasn't building a company anymore. I was building people who refused to look away. And that, finally, felt like winning. Riley's first solo case landed on a Monday, a warehouse client out in Modesto. "Routine inspection," she said. "Nothing major." By Wednesday, I knew that was a lie. She called from the site, voice tight, wind loud through the phone. "They're welding over flammable solvent drums," she said. "Did you shut it down?" "They laughed at me. Said the last guy signed off for months." I could hear shouting in the background, not anger, just that specific tone men use when they think someone young and female doesn't know what she's talking about. "Riley," I said slowly, "walk me through what you did." I cited it. I photographed everything. "But Eli, they're Foreman's Miller's old buddy. Name's Jonas." That name hit like static. Jonas Vickers, the guy who once told me to stop making paperwork out of problems. "Get out of there," I said. "I'm not running," she said. Her voice was steady now, the same steel I'd seen in her that first day at the diner. "I'm finishing the report, then I'll send it to OSHA directly." I wanted to argue, to protect her from the kind of retaliation I knew too well. But something in me said, this is her fight. So I said, "All right. Just keep your camera rolling." That night, my phone pinged. A video, shaky, low light, Riley's voice. "Date, time, location, safety violation in progress." A spark flared across the frame, followed by a curse, and then the screen went black. My heart stopped. I called, no answer. Called again, voicemail. I barely remember the drive. 2 hours and 45 minutes. When I pulled up, the warehouse was swarming with trucks and flashing lights. Fire department, OSHA, local news vans already parked crooked on the street. Riley stood by the barricade, soot on her cheek, holding a clipboard like it was a shield. She was alive. Thank God. She looked at me, exhausted, eyes red but fierce. "They said it was just a flare-up." She gave a tired laugh. "Guess flammable means flammable." I looked past her. Half the side wall was blackened. Jonas was being handcuffed. "You caught it all on tape?" I asked. She nodded, jaw tight. "Everything." Next day, the video was everywhere. Local stations, trade journals, OSHA's own training modules. A 24-year-old consultant standing her ground against men twice her age, warning them seconds before a spark nearly took the whole place down. Reporters called her the Navarro protégé. I hated that phrase. Because she wasn't my shadow, she was her own storm. That Friday, she walked into my office and dropped her resignation letter. I blinked. "You quitting already?" She smiled. "I'm expanding. Starting my own branch. Fresno needs someone local." I read the letter, respectful, clean, decisive. Exactly like her. "Proud of you," I said. She nodded. "You should be." When she left, the silence in the shop felt heavier, but good heavy, the kind that comes after something right. She texted me that night, "Thanks for letting me fight my own fight." I replied, "Thanks for winning it." Sometimes legacy means watching someone walk away, not because they're done with you, but because they've learned how to stand alone. A year later, the shop was quieter. Just me, 2 part-timers, and a coffee maker that wheezed like it had opinions. Riley had her own team now, 3 inspectors and a reputation. She sent me photos sometimes, her logo on hard hats, her office with the same battered desk we'd once shared. Every time I saw her name in an article, I smiled. That's what you want when you build something, for it to outgrow you. One afternoon, I got a letter forwarded from my old address. No return name, just typed neat. E. Navarro. Personal. Inside, a short note. Heard you're still running your mouth. Thought you should see what's left. No signature, just a folded photo, Miller's old yard, stripped bare. Faded lettering on the gate, for lease, sun-bleached and forgotten. A scrap of their old slogan still visible. Safety first, always. I almost laughed. The irony smelled stronger than diesel. For a long moment I just stared at that picture, the ghosts of every argument, every late-night report, every "let it go" still rattling in my ribs. That place had built me and tried to bury me. Now it was dust. And me? Still standing. I took the photo outside, struck a match, and let it burn in the trash barrel behind the shop. Ash curled like paper confession. When it was gone, I didn't feel triumphant. Just settled. The phone buzzed. Riley. "Big contract just landed," she said, voice bright. "County Transit. You in for consulting? Only if you handle the press this time." "Deal," she said and laughed. After the call, I walked through the yard. The sunset hit the aluminum ladders just right, every rung glowing gold for half a second before the light slipped away. I used to think revenge would feel loud. Like engines, like applause. It doesn't. It sounds like breathing in clean air after years underground. It sounds like paperwork closing, like steel doors locking on the people who used to scare you. That night I wrote one last thing in the shop ledger before closing it for good. Silence isn't loyalty. Paper trails save lives. Keep building. Then I turned off the lights. The hum faded. Outside, the desert was quiet, no trucks, no threats, just open road and room to keep going. Somewhere down the highway, a young woman named Riley was probably doing an inspection by the book, clipboard steady, heart unshaken. That was enough. I wasn't the guy who fought anymore. I was the guy who built fighters.